Okay, so these are pictures of Peter Verigin and today's topic class. Peter Verigin. 80 years ago, the charismatic Doukhobor leader Peter Verigin died in a spectacular railway explosion near Ferron in British Columbia. Today, his death remains unsolved. So, who is Peter Verigin? Well, he is a spiritual leader of the Doukhobors, and he was very wealthy on paper. He's also a Russian immigrant, and he was traveling with his friends on the Kettle Valley train in October the 24th, 1924, when the train exploded. This is a map of the Doukhobor settlements in the boundary of and West Kootenay districts of British Columbia. And over here is a map of the location of the passengers in a first-class coach, coach car number 1586. And if you look closely, it describes where they were situated. Peter Verigin is located right here, at this spot right here. Okay, and then we have this image here. This is the Canadian Pacific Railway, Castlegar to Grand Prairie. And lastly, we have where the bodies were found after the explosion of car 1586 on the Kettle Valley line. So the most prominent individual was Verigin. Who would want him dead? Fellow Doukhobors. There's political, personal competitors around the world. And there is his son as well, which is known as Peter. And the Canadian and Soviet government. Oh, you're not right. Okay, so we want to know who killed Peter Verigin, also known as Lord Lee, the Doukhobor leader. So, I think that the Doukhobor factions killed him, right? There was a few factions. There's the Sons of Freedom. They were an extremist group, and they were also expelled by Peter Verigin earlier on, so they might hold some resentments, right? They were also well known for use of explosives and pyrotechnics. So I would think that their radical behavior would be the one that would kill him. There's also the other speculation too that the Doukhobor faction, those who were jealous of him, because he did have a 17-year-old companion with him, and female, right? And he was a married man. And there's also greed. I mean, this man is very powerful in the Doukhobor society. He is he's a manager of multiple universal brotherhood. It's the Christian the Christian community of universal brotherhood. So that's what I think. Myself, I really think it was the Sons of Freedom, especially since they're the only group that we'll hear that were known for explosions and radical behavior.
Well, I think it was Peter Lord Lee, because he was known to hate his father because, well, he was abandoned as a baby by him, and he rebelled against his father from not abstaining from sex, smoking, or drinking. And well, before his father died, a week before, he actually made his way to Canada, and so I think maybe, he had something to do with it. And he also mastered the Doukhobor bombing, and I guess he was suspected of blowing up his father's grave as well in 1930, so that's what I think.
Okay.
I think it was the Soviet government, Russia. Many Doukhobors in Canada were thinking of moving back to Russia because they would didn't fit in with a new lifestyle in Russia. Peter Verigin was willing to move back every Doukhobor until he found out that Vladimir Ladin was the new Soviet leader. The Soviets looked at Verigin's idea as being ridiculous, a primitive utopianism idea. When Verigin was killed, many followers thought he was set up by Russia to get rid of Peter Verigin. One was speaking out against the Soviet Russian government. Two is if Verigin was dead, the Doukhobors would return back to Russia. Three, the Doukhobors would think they were unwelcome in Canada and move back.
My theory is that the Ku Klux Klan, which also named as KKK, should be suspected of murder because they use methods associated with violence and use of sophisticated bombs, and which they use to kill political opponents. It was mentioned in a newspaper article in Grand Forks in 1925, declaring that citizens are talking of Klan methods. This was considered after the Doukhobors were linked to burning schools. Maybe they used Klan methods to kill Verigin in 1924. That's my theory.
All right. Well, clearly we have a mystery on our hands. Thank you very much for listening.